I am honored to welcome you to the 2019 Inamori Ethics Prize ceremony at Case Western Reserve University's Maltz Performing Arts Center. This award and the Inamori International Center for Ethics and Excellence are made possible through the visionary philanthropy of Dr. Kazuo Inamori and the foundation that bears his name. I would like to begin by thanking our title sponsors for their support of this important event. Representing the Callahan Foundation, Vice Chair of our Board of Trustees, Tim Callahan, and his wife, Nancy, both graduates of Case Western Reserve University, as well as dear and longtime friends and champions of our university. Nancy Berardinelli-Krantz, Senior Vice President for Global Ethics and Compliance, representing the Eaton Corporation, one of our most consistent and generous partners. To the Callahans, to Eaton, thank you so much for your generous support of the Inamori Ethics Prize and helping us to continue our tradition of honoring global ethical leadership. As you will see in our program, tonight's ceremony has several other sponsors as well. We are grateful to each of them for recognizing the significance of this event and helping us make it ever better. Thanks to all of our sponsors. We have an exceptional board of trustees at Case Western Reserve University, and a few of them are with us this evening. They support many programs, including the Inamori International Center for Ethics and Excellence. In addition to our board vice chair, Tim Callahan, and his wife, Nancy, Vice Chair Don Richards is with us, as are two of our emeriti trustees, Sally Grease and her husband Bob, and Robert Madison. We are grateful to all of them for being here tonight and for everything they do for our university. Thank you. And we are delighted that members of our African American Alumni Association, led by Vera Perkins Hughes, are here with us throughout the audience this evening. A special welcome to Dick Davis from San Diego, California. For those of you who know something about the Kyocera and its relationship to San Diego, which is the home of its United States headquarters, Dick is a key organizer of the North American Kyoto Prize Symposium every year, and we've been so blessed to work with him and have his friendship over many years. So Dick, welcome back to Case Western Reserve. And we have two very special guests from Kyoto, Japan, representing the Inamori Foundation, Mr. Kazuhito Himeda, the Director and Secretary General of the Foundation, and Mr. Hayato Takanouchi. Can you please both stand so we can say thank you? You made a long journey to be with us this evening, and we are grateful. It is a great privilege to join all of you for the 12th year, celebrating the Inamori Ethics Prize to honor global ethical leadership. Since 2008, our remarkable recipients have included leaders in medicine, business, the environment, philosophy, and human rights. All have dedicated their careers to driving their respective fields to embrace exemplary ethical practices, whether in leading the Human Genome Project, founding ethical and successful companies, defending the human rights of some of the most vulnerable people in the world, providing free healthcare services, promoting sustainable ecology and climate justice globally, advancing the scholarship of ethics and philosophy, fighting global corruption, advocating for children, or helping us land on the moon and identifying scarce water resources in some of the world's most arid regions. I am especially delighted to note that our 2014 Inamori Ethics Prize recipient, Dr. Dennis Mukwege, received the 2018 Nobel Peace Prize for his work on behalf of survivors of sexual violence. We are proud of that record. Joining that esteemed group of Inamori Ethics Prize winners today is Mr. Levar Burton, acclaimed actor, director, producer, as well as advocate for children's literacy and AIDS research. He is also the first Inamori Ethics Prize winner to be honored for ethical leadership in the arts. In all of his roles, he embraces Dr. Inamori's philosophy that people have no higher calling than to serve the greater good of humankind. We are able to give this annual prize at this exceptional celebration due to the vision of Dr. Kazuo Inamori and the incredible support of the Inamori Foundation. We've enjoyed a long-standing, productive, and excellent relationship with the Inamori Foundation, which began many years ago with Dr. Inamori's friendship with Case Western Reserve University Distinguished Professor Emeritus and Kyocera Professor Emeritus Arthur Hoyer, who could not be with us this evening. But our faculty, our staff, and our students have benefited immeasurably from the relationship between our university and the Inamori Foundation, and also from the superb work of the Inamori International Center for Ethics and Excellence, which is dedicated to advancing Dr. Inamori's philosophy of pursuing what is right for humankind. Dr. Inamori is an internationally renowned businessman who at the age of 27 founded the Kyocera Corporation using a new ceramic he developed to tackle some of the toughest engineering challenges. In 1984, Dr. Inamori went on to found DDI Corporation, which became Japan's second largest telecommunications carrier. Among the world's most prominent thought leaders, Dr. Inamori founded that same year the Inamori Foundation and created the esteemed Kyoto Prize to honor those who have contributed to the betterment of humankind. In addition to endowing the Kyocera Distinguished Professorship here at Case Western Reserve, we were honored to receive a generous gift to create the Inamori International Center for Ethics and Excellence in 2006, and 2 years later to establish the annual Inamori Ethics Prize. In recognition of his exemplary civic and humanitarian efforts and his leadership to our university and the world, the university presented Dr. Inamori with an honorary degree in 2006 and the President's Award for Visionary Achievement in 2014. Case Western Reserve is grateful for Dr. Inamori's generosity, his insights, his passion for education. I am now pleased to introduce the director of the Inamori Center for Ethics and Excellence, philosophy professor, globally acclaimed ethicist Shannon French, who serves as both our Inamori Professor in Ethics and also the General Hugh Shelton Distinguished Chair in Ethics for the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College Foundation. Professor French also leads Case Western Reserve's graduate degree program in military ethics, the first of its kind in the nation. And she will be speaking in London next month, if you happen to be there, at Lancaster House, St. James, as part of the official commemorations of the 70th anniversary of the signing of the Geneva Conventions. We are proud of Dr. French. Please welcome her this evening.
Thank you, President Snyder, and thanks to you all for joining us here for an evening to celebrate ethical leadership. The philosopher Wittgenstein wrote about the difference between seeing and seeing as. I think about that a lot. And in this context of our celebration tonight, I want you to think about the incredible moment when new readers go from seeing abstract symbols on a page to seeing them as recognizable words, words that convey meaning, words that can paint glorious pictures in their minds, impart knowledge, teach new skills, or transport them to boundless worlds of the imagination. The gift of literacy that Levar Burton has helped bring to so many is the unlocking of potential. It is access and hope and human connection. And it allows people to see themselves as capable of much more than they might otherwise have dreamed. There are many powerful, transformative moments in our ethical lives that involve that transition from seeing to seeing as. And some of them are painful, like when we first see human beings as capable of doing actual evil to one another. Some, like the ability to see others, no matter how different from us, as equally deserving of rights and dignity, may come naturally to some, but may require a special push or moment of revelation for others. Still others, like the ability to see the future as full of potential rather than full of terror, require inspiration. They require the vision, you might say, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Portraying a vision like that helps us foresee a time when the problems that plague our present might be alleviated by working together and by using new technologies to enable us to reach beyond our current challenges, maybe even beyond the stars. All of these seeing as moments are essential to unlocking the opportunity for each of us to pursue meaningful and fulfilling lives, which is the goal of ethics. It's also the only way for society to flourish. When obstacles are removed and people are free to contribute what they were always capable of contributing, we all benefit. The more people we have in our community who are able to read and get educated and pursue careers and exercise their talents, the more chance we all have that one of those people will cure cancer, while another one will solve the energy crisis. Yet another will open our hearts with a breathtaking performance. And another one, perhaps, will negotiate a lasting peace. Like I said last year on this very stage when we honored Egyptian-born NASA scientist Farouk El-Baz for his role in getting us to the moon and back, if any of us is going to survive, we need all of us to have a chance to be the best that we can be. It's not a zero-sum game, and it never was. I hope those of you who attend these Inamori Ethics Prize events, and some of you come every year, thank you, are reminded at this time that we are all in this together, that we can all be ethical leaders in our fields, locally and globally. We are here to be inspired by our honoree and to renew our own commitment to make positive contributions in whatever time and spheres of influence we are granted. In recognition of his many contributions to humankind, the Inamori Foundation wishes to present Mr. Levar Burton with a traditional Japanese doll, you see on the stage here, that symbolizes the timeless values we should all embrace of altruism, compassion, and kindness. This unique doll was commissioned by the Inamori Foundation to accompany the Inamori Ethics Prize. Each doll is handmade with the highest degree of skill and precision by a doll master whose patrons include the Dalai Lama, and whose works are lauded as national treasures in Japan and around the world. Now, please join me in welcoming our Provost and Executive Vice President, Ben Vinson, to tell you more about this year's outstanding Inamori Ethics Prize honoree, Levar Burton.
Thank you, Shannon. Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our 2019 Inamori Ethics Prize honoree. Levar Robert Martin Burton Jr. is the kind of talent that you can only describe with a lot of hyphens. He is an actor, producer, director, scriptwriter, author, and advocate for children's literacy, as well as an advocate for AIDS, HIV treatment and research. And to that list, we should add father and husband. Tonight, Mr. Burton is joined by his wife, Stephanie Cozart Burton. Now, many of you know tonight's honoree from his groundbreaking role in the 1977 award-winning ABC television miniseries, Roots, where he portrayed Kunta Kinte, the main character in Alex Haley's powerful epic about slavery in America. And a little bird told me this morning that he tweeted that Kunta Kinte is in the house in Cleveland. Now, others of you may know him as Lieutenant Commander Geordi LaForge from the Star Trek The Next Generation TV show and movies. Now, for those of you less familiar with Geordi, he was a brilliant blind black engineer on whom the entire crew depended. Now, I've got to say, I confess, I'm a fanboy, and so this was certainly one of my favorite TV shows, both when it aired live and in syndicate. Or others of you may know our honoree as the host of the long-running PBS children's series, Reading Rainbow. Now, through this program, he brought the joy of reading into so many hearts and helped children everywhere believe in their own uniqueness and potential. Now, he helps reawaken in adults that same excitement for reading through his podcast, Levar Burton Reads. Tonight's honoree has also recorded many audiobooks, and in the year 2000, he was recognized by the Grammys and won a Grammy Award in the category of Best Spoken Word Album for the autobiography of Martin Luther King Jr. Reading Rainbow was also recognized with a Peabody Award and 26 Emmys, including 11 for Outstanding Children's Series. Now, Burton himself won 12 Emmy Awards for Reading Rainbow. But Burton's work for children's literacy went beyond the tremendous impact of this show. He started a nonprofit to encourage literacy through technology and worked to integrate the spirit of Reading Rainbow into elementary schools across the country. Everywhere he goes, Levar Burton opens the eyes of children and adults to the critical importance of reading and education. Now, these are just glimpses of Levar Burton's mesmerizing impact. When he brought Kunta Kinte into American living rooms in 1977, his powerful performance made an indelible contribution to this country's efforts to confront the legacy of slavery and racism, whose historical consequences are still at work today, 400 years after the first enslaved persons were kidnapped and transported to a Virginia colony in 1619. I have also learned that our distinguished guests from the Inamori Foundation in Kyoto, Japan, actually saw Roots in their country as well, and were greatly impacted by the show. In 1986, when Burton began to play Lieutenant Geordi LaForge in the Star Trek The Next Generation series, he not only provided entertainment with an admirable character, he also provided representation. There, on the screen, was a person of color and a person with a disability who was an engineering genius at the heart of a flagship's crew. To this day, I am convinced that countless individuals who encountered that character began more firmly to believe in a future where differences unite rather than divide us. Ladies and gentlemen, Levar Burton is a beacon of hope in so many ways. In 2009, he hosted the documentary Science Trek, showing how real-life scientists have themselves been inspired by the science fiction of Star Trek. Now, incidentally, our own Professor Shannon French was interviewed in that documentary, although she and Levar never met during the filming. So, Shannon, Levar, Shannon, yeah. Burton also helped produce and host the documentary The Science Piece, which brought together experts from the growing field of peace science to explore how advances in science and technology can address the root causes of conflicts. Mr. Burton has also been the voice of several animated projects, including the Captain Planet and the Planeteer series. And tonight's honoree has also authored 2 books. Last but not least, Mr. Burton serves on the board of directors for the AIDS Research Alliance, a nonprofit medical research organization. This alliance works to speed the discovery and implementation of effective HIV treatments. Distinguished guests and visitors, students and faculty, assembled community members, the leadership and faculty of the Case Western Reserve University understand that one of our core roles is to graduate individuals who are engaged with this wider world and who will uncompromisingly be responsible global citizens. With that in mind, tonight, we are sincerely proud to honor Levar Burton with the 2019 Inamori Ethics Prize. Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite you to watch a short video about our honoree.
I come from a lower middle class background, a single mom, worked 9 to 5. I could have been one of those statistics with which we are all too familiar, but I had a person who had not only hopes and dreams for me, she had expectations.
Levar Burton grew up in Sacramento, California. He was raised Roman Catholic, and at the age of 8, he wanted to become a priest. He entered the seminary, but during his years there, discovered his love for storytelling and acting. He received a full scholarship to the University of Southern California to study theater. His sophomore year, he had his first professional audition.
Tonight, we present a landmark in television entertainment, Roots.
We changed the way this nation frames its conversation around race.
It is the power of storytelling that has been the foundation of Levar's life and career.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high.
In 1983, Levar became the host and executive producer of Reading Rainbow on PBS. The show ran for 26 years.
Had I been born in a slightly earlier time frame, it would have been illegal for me to know how to read.
Levar Burton's favorite form of literature is science fiction.
Science fiction literature tends to ask us what I believe to be are 2 of the most powerful words in language in combination, those words being, what if?
It was apropos in 1986 when Levar was approached to take on the role of Lieutenant Commander Geordi LaForge in the Star Trek The Next Generation television series.
Look at all of the technological innovation that was inspired by Star Trek. The flip cell phone, Bluetooth earpiece, the iPad, FaceTime. That which we imagine is what we tend to manifest.
When Reading Rainbow went off the air in 2009, Levar began imagining new possibilities.
We heard time after time after time. I grew up on Reading Rainbow, and there's nothing out there for my kids like there was Reading Rainbow. So we knew there was an opportunity.
Levar and his business partner launched a Kickstarter campaign to reboot Reading Rainbow for the digital age. Levar now has a startup, Levar Burton Kids, where he promotes children's literacy. He also has a podcast where he reads short stories aimed at adults.
Everything that I have done in the field of literacy has been in honor of my mother.
This summer, Levar's hometown of Sacramento dedicated a park in his name. His wife and daughter attended, but his mother wasn't there to witness. She passed away last year.
I will go to my grave believing that my life will have been worthwhile if I was able to successfully encourage and inspire people to become literate. The freedom. Literacy is a human right.
Today, the Inamori International Center for Ethics and Excellence at Case Western Reserve University is proud to present the 2019 Inamori Ethics Prize to Levar Burton.
Levar Burton, tonight, we recognize your ethical leadership in the arts and your advocacy for children's literacy and AIDS/HIV research. Your work has dramatically improved the condition of humankind in the present and provided hope for the future. Thus, on our recommendation of the Inamori Ethics Prize Selection Committee, it is my distinct pleasure to present you with the 2019 Inamori Ethics Prize Medal.
Now, Levar, as if you weren't choked up enough, before you speak to us, I'm afraid we have something more for you that is a bit of a surprise. Thank you, Stephanie, for helping make this happen. We'd like you to have a seat so you don't fall down. Some of your friends would like to offer their congratulations as well. Brace yourself, everyone.
Levar, my brother, how fitting it is that you are being honored with the Inamori Ethics Prize, Peaceful Warrior. Not only do you bring the light, you set a template by which we understand how to light our own lamps, and darkness has no future. You do it with such balance and joy. These times groan and stretch towards men like you, Levar. Alunta continua. So tonight, get up from your table and dance. I love you.
I'd like to say congratulations to my ally, Levar Burton, a man with a big brain connected to a big heart. Congratulations, Bertie.
My dear Levar, congratulations. An ethics prize. That's wonderful and totally appropriate. The only thing is, I imagine you won't want to talk to me anymore after that one. Well, I'll get by somehow, ethics or not. Love you.
Levar, congratulations. I cannot think of anyone more deserving of this honor than you. You're an extraordinary artist and a wonderful philanthropist, a great mind, and a good friend. Congratulations on this honor. Have a fantastic night.
I worked with Levar on Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I really can think of no one who deserves the Inamori Ethics Prize more than my good friend Levar. He is beyond ethical, a kind, gentle, and supportive friend, and I wish him nothing but wonderful things. I love you, Levar.
I just wanted to add my voice to the congratulations for the Inamori Prize for Ethics. I can think of no one who deserves it more. Not only have you developed into a wonderful friend, you've developed into an even better human being. And congratulations. Also, congratulations on not having a bald spot. Have a good time.
For gold and precious emeralds, I would not travel far. But I'd cross the globe and back again for my dear old friend Levar. Congratulations, pal.
Hey, Levar. Scott here. I've known you for 18 years now, but I don't think I ever realized the full depth of your stature on this planet until you came down to direct an episode of NCIS New Orleans. And it crystallized for me on the last day of your episode. In true traditional show business fashion, our first AD, Sherman Shelton, announced that's a wrap on episode 316. The crew burst into applause. Only something was different. The applause kept going and growing. People had come down from the offices. The drivers came in the set to have one last moment with you. You had tears in your eyes. Everybody was beaming because of you. Congratulations to you. We love you. You're a fabulous person. Case Western, good job. You're honoring a special human being down there. You got Levar Burton in the house.
Hi, I'm Brent Spiner. I just want to wish my friend Levar a hearty congratulations on receiving this prestigious award. Levar, Lori and Jackson and I are so proud of you tonight, and I can't think of anyone who's more worthy of this than you are. We'd love to be with you tonight, but of course, well, we weren't invited, but you know what? No hard feelings. We still love you, and congratulations. Congratulations, Levar. Okay. Wow. How many of these things do we have to do for him? It seems like he gets an award every week. I mean, you know what we should do? We just put it on a loop where we say, congratulations, Levar. Congratulations, Levar. Congratulations. I said, cut.
Hey, Dad, I am so proud of you for winning this award. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there to celebrate with you today, but just know you have taught me what it's like to be a good person, and I know you've taught thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions even, of people how to be good and kind, and there's no one in the world who deserves this more than you. I love you so much. I'll hug you when you get home. Have fun today. Bye!
Thank you. Whew. That's a hard act to follow. Thank you, Shannon French, and all of the people at the Inamori Foundation, at the Inamori Center. Thank you, Mr. Provost. Thank you, Case Western. Thank you, Stephanie. My ride or die. My road dog for life. Thank you. I'm an itinerant storyteller. Storytelling isn't just what I do, it's who I am. I am lucky, blessed, fortunate in that I was born to the woman that I was. I believe that on a certain level, as souls, we spend some time before we incarnate evaluating what it is we want to accomplish as a soul in a lifetime. And among those decisions that we make are the circumstances into which we will be born. So on a certain level, I feel like I chose my mother, and that was the best decision I ever made as a soul. I say about my mother that I am the man that I am because she was the woman that she was. My mother was 4'10" and a half, weighed about $110, $115 tops. Until the day she died, I was afraid of that woman. You laugh, but I'm serious. Irma Jean, and every opportunity I have to mention my mother's name in public, I do. Irma Jean Christian, that was my mother's name. She started her life as Irma Jean Ward, then met my father. No, before my father, she married a man named Reynolds. She was Irma Jean Reynolds. Then she was Irma Jean Burton, and she finished out her life as Irma Jean Christian. My mother loved men, loved getting married, I guess. She was my first teacher. She was a high school English teacher when she met my father. She was the first person in her family to graduate from college, which she did at the age of 17. She graduated from Philander Smith, an historically black college in Little Rock, Arkansas. My father is from Paragould, Arkansas. That's the country, if you don't know. It doesn't get much more country than Paragould, Arkansas. My name is Lavardis. It's as black as you can get. But my mom was also a reader. She was a voracious reader. And my mother read not simply to me when I was a child. My mother always had at least 2, sometimes 3 books going for her own personal pleasure, her enjoyment. So I grew up in a household where reading was akin to breathing. And people ask me all the time, so how do I get my child to read more? And I ask them a couple of questions. I ask them, 1, do your children see you reading? Right? We are sponges, especially as children. And that all-important example, that modeling, makes a difference. It certainly made a difference in my life. Seeing my mother read for pleasure made an impact. It communicated to me that reading for pleasure, not just for knowledge, but for enjoyment, was one of the benefits of being human. I also ask parents, do you know what your children are passionate about? Because it is our passions that tend to drive our reading appetites. If your child loves superheroes, then damn it, buy your kid comic books. I do not care what the gateway drug is. I simply want kids to learn how to love to read. Because in my view, if you are a reader in at least one language, you are free, literally free. No one can imprison your mind, and no one can put shackles on your imagination. And so, my first idea of what and how I should spend my life, because my mother was first a teacher and then a social worker, was to have a life that was of service. My mother instilled in my sisters and in me that service to community, service to our fellow man was expected. Like reading, I say about reading in my mother's house, you either read a book or got hit in the head with one, right? And almost every day of our lives, Irma Jean encouraged us. She would say, be a good person. Just be a good person. Those values I carry in my heart each and every day of my life. I strive to make my mother proud. Well, first it started out trying to not embarrass the family. Or black people, for that matter, because black people will tell you we feel responsible for everything that happens in the race. And as such, that mantle is shared by all African Americans in this country. We never want to give anyone reason to be embarrassed about who we are and what we do. My mother was not only the first person in her family to graduate from college, she got her second degree in social work, an MSW, a master's in social work, right? She got it at night school while being a social worker full-time during the day and raising 3 children by herself and putting us all through parochial school education. When I started my freshman year at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles, I had won a full scholarship, but it didn't cover books and fees. And so, in addition to her day job as a social worker, my mother waited tables at a nightclub called Small's Paradise in Sacramento, California, so that I could pursue my dream of becoming an actor. Do you see why I love this woman so much? That is the value of an investment. Investiture in another human being is the greatest gift that we can give. The belief that we hold for one another cannot be underestimated. I am the man that I am because of that woman's love. My mother was also my first storytelling mentor. I was asked just earlier today, really for the first time in my life, how long has it been since you've considered yourself a storyteller? And I have to admit that it hasn't been that long. The last 5 years or so, very recently, that I have had the courage in my life to claim that title, to own the title storyteller. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about some of my other storytelling mentors. Alex Haley was an amazing storyteller. I learned so much from Alex. Alex Haley was the most authentic human being I have ever met in my life. And what I mean by that is that, and I was with Alex so many times, on so many occasions, where people would just clamor to get close to him. And his ability to focus on whoever was in front of him was absolutely astounding, commensurate. Because Alex was laser locked on you. When you were engaged in a conversation with Alex Haley, he wasn't looking around to see if somebody more important or somebody more attractive walked in the room. He was present with you. And he allowed his presence to travel with him. He would leave those giant ballrooms. He would always go into the kitchen. He would always introduce himself to the kitchen staff, as they were invariably people of color. And his example of what it is to be a compassionate, present human being shaped me almost as much as his storytelling has. I don't use the words in combination very often, but Alex Haley, in my view, was a great man. A great man. And the controversy surrounding some of the parts of Roots notwithstanding, the man changed through the power of the pen the way a nation frames one of the greatest tragedies in human history, chattel slavery here in America. For those of you old enough to remember, how many of you are old enough to remember when Roots aired originally in January of 1977? Thank God you're not all 24. Then you remember how we were all glued. It was one of the few times I can recall, and I'm 62 years old, that there was indeed one America. America is always at least bifurcated from my experience. Through my lens, there are always at least two Americas in play. There's white and black, there's male and female, there's rich and poor. America is always fractured through the prism of race, however, because it is how this country came to be the world power that it is. And America hasn't always done a very good job of telling its story to the world either. I look at Manifest Destiny as simply an excuse that was used by British Europeans to come to this country and steal the land and kill all of the people on it, which they did because they resisted, which any of us would have done. Our relationship with slavery is still incomplete, and its legacies of institutionalized racism. It feels like we are at an inflection point here in this country where we have a very clear and present choice, which is to reconcile our slave-holding past and make appropriate amends to the descendants of those enslaved, because it's the right thing to do. It's the ethical thing to do. And I'm not talking necessarily reparations, I mean amends. I love this country desperately. And I have had to, throughout the course of my life, find a way to deal with the fact that my country doesn't love me so much. It hurts. It really does. And I know I speak for many souls and not just my own. I see the heads nodding in this room. My country doesn't love me as much as I love it. And yet, I persist. And yet, I pursue the American dream. I pursue the democracy that was promised by the founding of this nation. And Alex Haley's contribution through the written word is immeasurable. There was one America in January of 1977. It happened to be one of the coldest winters in memory, and so folks were inside already. But we only had basically three channels and PBS. But we were watching Roots. As a nation, we watched, and the audience grew almost exponentially every night until the final episode of Roots is still in the top 5 of the most watched episodes of television in the history of the medium. And all of that was accomplished with one family's story. That is the power of storytelling. I was a huge fan of the original television series Star Trek. I loved Star Trek. I'm a science fiction literature fan. It's always been my go-to body of literature when I'm reading for pleasure, when I'm reading for enjoyment. And it was rare for me to encounter heroes in the pages of those novels who looked like me. But Gene Roddenberry's vision, there was Nichelle Nichols, not just there, but in an important role, in a position of authority. She was, talk about a beacon of light to a young black kid in Sacramento, California. Gene Roddenberry's vision as a storyteller told me that there was a place for me when the future came, and that I would be welcome into a world that hopefully would have, we as the stewards of this world would have resolved all of the issues of racism and sexism and classism. There would be no need for money. The problem of lack would have been solved. That was the kind of world I wanted to live in, and that's why I bought into Gene's vision. It included me, and it seemed like that way of thinking, believing, and living was the right thing to do. It was ethical. You saw in the clip earlier, I talked about all of the inventions that have been made possible by Gene's vision. The flip cell phone, right? The iPad. You think Steve Jobs wasn't a Star Trek fan? Really? Apple owes me money. That which we focus our imagination on is what we tend to produce in this realm. That's one of the things that I learned from Gene. The power of the imagination. Not a single thing in creation has gotten here without someone's imagination. Everything you can think of, every device, every design, every manner of product, it has all sprung from the imagination of a human being. And it is that which we focus upon in our imaginations that we tend to manifest. That is how human beings operate. We are manifesting machines. Consciously or unconsciously, we are manifesting in our waking sleep as well as in our sleeping awakeness. We are manifesting machines 24/7, consciously or unconsciously. And the more we can live in our imaginations and spend time there, the more prepared we will be for the challenges that face us. It's one of the reasons why I love doing my podcast, Levar Burton Reads. It gives me, one, an opportunity to reconnect with a whole generation of adults who are used to getting literature selection advice from me. And so I get to continue to introduce them to new authors, more diverse authors, authors that they might not have encountered on their own. And I get to encourage them to spend a little time in their imaginations, to remember the joy of being read to, and to lose oneself in story. Because my generation is leaving a world of, literally a world of problems for your generation to solve. And I apologize, because it's a real shit show right now. And you're going to need every faculty you possess in order to meet these challenges, and chief among them, I promise you, is your imaginations. Gene also taught me that all of our heroes are human. He was a visionary, and he was a man. He was a man of his generation. Gene loved women, and he loved to see women in short skirts. And in spite of the vision, all of the women in Star Trek, the original series, wore short skirts. Gene was a part of the generation who did that 3-martini lunch. And still, he was a visionary. All of our heroes are human. And that was a really vital, critical lesson for me to learn. When I think of how I got here, the amazing twists and turns in my life, circumstances that I never could have foreseen, outcomes that seem to have materialized miraculously from nowhere. Time and time again, when what felt like the hand of fate intervening at a critical moment that made such a huge and profound difference in the trajectory of my life. I can't help but be grateful to all of the people who have invested in me. We are, none of us, alone in this life, and none of us get through life being a lone wolf or a solitary player. Life is a team sport. Participation is not optional. You can't change the world from your couch. It takes energy to change the world. So get up and get out and do something with your life. There are very few things to me more precious than the written word. My last storytelling mentor that I will mention, and I'll tell a brief story about Fred. I'm talking about Fred Rogers. You might know him as Mr. Rogers. Fred was an amazing human being. And when I first met Fred, I was really excited because I was eager to see what this man was really like. I mean, I thought that can't be real. Right? That's gotta be like a character, right? That's an act. But it wasn't. Like Alex, Fred knew how to be present. It's a really gift to give to someone your attention, your undivided attention. It says, I see you. It says, you matter in this moment. I was at a big confab at the White House once when Bill Clinton was in office, and it was a gathering of all of the influencers and influential people in the business of show business. Everybody had gathered in this room at the White House, and Bill Clinton and Hillary were there, Vice President Gore and his wife Tipper, and around this huge rectangular assembled table were all of the studio heads and heads of networks from Los Angeles. It was a high-powered type A room, I will tell you. And when it came time for Fred to speak, he did something extraordinary. He asked everyone to close their eyes and think of a teacher or someone who had seen them at some point in their lives and encouraged them in a way to become who they turned out to be. And he asked people to close their eyes and focus their attention on that person for a minute. That was Fred's contribution. And don't you know, every single person in that room closed their eyes for a minute? I know because I peeked. I had to. And so I'd like to do that with you now. I'd like for all of us to close our eyes just for 30 seconds, and as Fred did on that day, I will watch the time. Now, how did that feel? Not so bad. None of us do this thing called life alone. We all need and are lucky not only to get help, but to be able to ask for help when needed, which is a real learned skill I have had to learn. Music is one of my favorite modalities of storytelling. There's so much story available in song. One of my favorite artists is a jazz singer. Jazz is my favorite genre, except when Van Morrison is singing. Van Morrison he's the sinner saint. He is the poet, bard. He's my favorite recording artist. He has been the soundtrack of my life. But music in general, and jazz specifically, and so many other genres of music have added so much richness to my life. There's a song by a singer named Diane Reeves that's called Testify, which has become something of an anthem of mine, and I will leave you with a few words from Diane Reeves. She says in the song, "Sometimes you won't understand why life is the way it is. Things don't always go the way you plan them. But I believe," she says, "that God and time are synonymous. And through time, God reveals all things. Be still," she says. "Stand in love and pay attention." I interpret the value of her suggestions to be still, stand in love, and pay attention to mean this, at least through my lens. Being still is valuable because unless we are still, we will never hear that inner voice that guides us, that small, still voice within, which is so important. Stand in love. Well, that's easy because standing in love is the only response to being human. And pay attention is my favorite. As a person who believes that everything happens for a reason, I want to pay attention because I don't want to miss an opportunity to hear a story that's going to change the world. Thank you.